guys. I think I pulled a hamstring backstage stretching, but thank you for that. I am Cody. I lead growth for Verkada here in EMEA, and I will be discussing this morning how first-party signals become your GTM moat. So let's go into the quick topics of the agenda here. We're going to discuss some of the pitfalls of third-party signals or rented signals, how we at Verkada build our first-party signal moat, what that orchestration looks like, why I believe audience is so much more important than copy, and really where you want to start thinking about your campaigns and workflows. Go through two very specific first-party signal workflows, and go over our kind of generic stale lead reactivation orchestration with Clay. So before getting started, I'm going to start with something I have a lot of conviction in. It is that in the next 5 years, the best GTM teams will not win by buying more intent data and having more GTM tools, but they'll win by remembering what their buyers already told them. So the first-party data, the first-party signals you collect on your buyers. So what are some of the problems with third-party or rented signals? They are not all bad. We use them a lot at Verkada. And this is not a crusade against third-party signals. I think you just have to recognize some of the pitfalls. To start, no competitive moat. If a data point or signal is commercially available, it is not exclusive. Should be an obvious one. Number two, you don't control it. Pricing can change. The API can change. Compliance rules can change. And then you're building orchestrations and workflows on a system that is going to decay in efficiency over time. And lastly, more data can create more noise. And that can lead to a very bloated data layer, which then in turn is a very bloated personalization in your messaging and copy. After seeing Varun's slide, it seems like maybe audiences may help with that, so that's great. So in short, third-party signals tell you what anybody can know, whereas your first-party signals tell you what only you can know. This is how we structure this at Verkada. We have Clay at the center of our orchestration. Again, after seeing Varun's slides, we'll probably go to the audiences feature, but this is how we've done this before audiences. We are piping in our call transcripts from Clary, our CRM data from Salesforce, and our email replies directly into Clay, which does more enrichment, it reasons, and it sends leads round robin to our SDRs via outreach. These first-party signals and data are so important because they come from direct interactions with buyers. They are not scraped. They are not inferred. It's data your competition doesn't have. And most importantly, it compounds. You get more and more over time. So to go back to third-party signals, I want to walk through kind of a crude example, but how I view the life cycle of third-party signals. So to start, and this is same with third-party data as well, anything that is available, commercially available. You find a new signal or data provider, you get high reply rates, easy meetings. Why? Because there's no competition and attention is cheap. This is your arbitrage window, or as Clay likes to call it, maybe your alpha. This is your GTM alpha, but it doesn't last forever. Why? You eventually will reach signal saturation, and then you have to find new intent vendors. Then everyone else gets access to that, and so then you need to find new enrichment sources again. There's more and more vendor commoditization, and ultimately you have too many people sending the same emails to the same people at the same time. And so you have this marginal decay in efficiency no matter what you're doing with this third-party data. Now this could be 6 days, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 6 years, but ultimately this is how I view kind of in the long term how the efficiency trend looks like for this third-party data. Now, conversely, let's look at your first-party data. You have your CRM data, CRM notes, your email replies, your meeting transcripts, your product usage data. You heard the story about Ramp earlier, maybe not using their product usage data well. This is really important for cross-sell and upsell. More behavioral context. What web pages are people visiting? What web pages or webinars are they attending? Competitive intelligence. What competitors are your buyers using? Who are you up against? And the great thing about all this data is this is data that has existed forever. It's always been there. But now, for the first time, we can take this unstructured text, this unstructured data, and actually turn it into a structured data layer, which helps us classify, extract, and push out these signals for action. And why does it grow over time? Well, your organization grows. At Verkada, we have about 1,400 people in our sales org. And so what happens as your organization grows? You have more conversations, more meetings, more email replies. That gives you more proprietary data. More proprietary data leads to better AI context, which is better outreach, better timing, better content, more pipeline, and the cycle continues. So that's why it compounds. Now, this is where I've made some mistakes. It is easy to get distracted during this kind of arbitrage period of third-party signals and then neglect to build the infrastructure for truly robust organizational memory, which you call your first-party data warehouse. And it can then kind of feel like a treadmill where you're constantly trying to chase the next signal, chase the next campaign, chase the next tactic, which works in the short term and will ultimately kind of decline after a period of time. And this is why I have fallen into this trap, because third-party signals do work. Everybody should use them. Everybody should leverage them. And they do bring quick ROI, and they do make great QBR slides. We all have quarterly business revenue goals to hit, quarterly pipeline goals to hit. Often chasing something for this quarter's goal feels like the right thing to do. But for me, the framing has helped if you extend the timeline. You extend rather than just next quarter, but 2, 3, 4 years out, the answer always comes back to create a robust organizational memory, which helps with your first-party data capture, and then how you use and leverage that data. So, before discussing workflows, which we can do in a second, I want to spend 2 very quick minutes on copy. It'll be quick. I do think copy, at least in this context, is overrated, and having a great audience actually solves for a lot of your copy issues because the message writes itself. With AI Outbound, I believe it's a trap to flip the order and focus too much on copy before really nailing audience. And I think a lot of GTM teams may get distracted because copy may be the flashy thing to focus on, but it is a mistake to think that your copy is actually creating intent. It doesn't. It captures the intent, but ultimately it's your audience that is finding it. So don't make the mistake of obsessing over, can AI write clever openers? Can it mention as many funding rounds or LinkedIn posts as possible? Can AI add as many personalization tokens as possible? All of this stuff is fine, and all of this stuff has a place. But if you focus on it too much, I think you begin to lose sight of the most important question, which is, why are we even emailing this person in the first place? If your answer to that is bad, the best copy in the world cannot save you. So I like to think about it as focusing on specificity over sophistication. So it's so easy to feel overwhelmed by all the data and all the tools. But rather than getting overwhelmed and feeling like you need to build a sophisticated workflow or a sophisticated copy, focus on specificity, which is simply this. When you email someone, do they understand immediately, why are you emailing me, why now, and why is this relevant to me? And do this in as few words as possible, and be almost boringly direct. This may be a bit controversial. I think if you need AI to write your email copy, then your message and your audience probably are not specific enough. Because if your audience is really, really good, the copy should be specific enough where you don't need to write the whole thing with AI copy. This is why first-party signals work so well. The message doesn't need to be clever, it just needs to be relevant. So obviously the solution is not to stop using AI, but constrain it, give it a narrow job, let it execute a specific step inside a strategy that you already understand. And this is where Clay becomes so powerful. So let's move on to some specific sequences or campaigns. Number 1, future reachout. This is one of the simplest first-party signals, but one we are terrible at collecting and using before Clay. This is a sequence, by the way, some stats up there. We get a 33% reply rate on this sequence. I think my mother is the only person on earth that replies to me at that rate, and this is B2B SaaS, so not too bad. Let's go into the campaign. Again, we have 1,400 people in our sales org, so we get a lot of emails. Our marketing team gets emails, our sales reps get emails. These are emails that we get on a daily basis. Get tens of these on a daily basis. What do they all have in common? Drop me a line in January, get back to us in May. Later in the autumn, come back to us December 1st, reach out next month. These are great signals. They did not say no, they gave you the timing, and most importantly, they gave you permission. Before Clay, how do we operate? Well, we'd have our SDRs add a task or disposition, maybe. The AE would make a note in Salesforce, maybe a follow-up note in Salesforce, mark it on their calendar, maybe. And even if everybody did everything right, everything correct, 6 months goes by, and what happens? The SDR churns, the SDR is on a different team, the AE churns, the AE is on a new territory, and the context is then buried in a thread nobody will ever see. So with Clay, you can take this unstructured data from email replies and turn it into a structured data layer. First step, classification. So like you saw in one of my earlier slides, we feed all of our email reply data into Clay, and we have a classification step. So we're classifying, is this person asking for future correspondence? Then we have the reasoning. When do they want to be reached out? Is it 6 months from now? In case then you need the context of when was it sent. Is it a discrete date, December 1st? Is it next autumn? Whatever it is, we use Clay for the reasoning component there. We structure the data, add in any additional enrichment we may need, then we sequence the lead. So again, this is such a specific audience that the email writes itself. Here's an example of the actual sequence. Subject line, checking back in. Body, I'm just following up on your note below where you asked us to check back in. That token at the bottom is actually their email they sent us. We're taking that first email, embedding it in HTML, and throwing this on the email just to give credibility that these are your words. You asked us to reach back out. I'm giving you proof. And now I'm just following up. So let's go through the specificity criteria I went over earlier. Why are you emailing me? Simple. Because you asked me to. Why now? Key stakeholders were out of office last time. You asked me to follow up now in the autumn. Great. Why is this relevant to me? We were previously in touch, had a positive interaction, and I'm just kicking back off the conversation. And you can also do this with call transcripts and meeting notes. Cool. Number 2, no longer at company. This is the second workflow I'll go over quickly. Every email blast you do creates replacement contacts and helps you update your map of the market, who is leaving a company, who's replacing them and taking on ownership. And with Clay, classifying this data becomes operational. Some more emails up here. What do they all have in common? I no longer work here. I have now left. This email address is no longer valid. But in all of them, they're giving us replacement contacts. This is very common for your sales org to get, or even for the marketing team. We used to send a lot of our emails for events, for promotions, whatever it may be, through alias domains, and would do nothing with these replies. I imagine a lot of people here are doing something similar. You want to make sure you're collecting this data no matter where it's coming from. Why? The contact may be gone, but the business problem obviously is not. So we're just taking a normal email byproduct, turning it into pipeline. Step 1, this should look familiar. It's just classification. We're identifying the no longer at company replies. The reasoning, great, this person is no longer here. Who is that next contact? Who is now in charge of, in our case, building security and safety? 3, structuring the data, and then we're sequencing the lead. Again, the email writes itself. Now, again, the specificity criteria, why are you emailing me? Your colleague told me to. Why now? Your colleague just sent me an email saying they left and they gave your information. And why is this relevant to me? Well, I was previously working on an initiative with your colleague and they gave me your information. Now, the 2 very specific things about both of these workflows I just went over is 1, AI has a very specific function. We're not using it end-to-end for everything, but we're given a very specific function in a workflow we already understand, and in a workflow we understand what the output should be. Number 2, there's no AI copy. These are such specific audiences and such specific use cases that you just need a couple custom tokens, and you have copy that checks the box for all the specificity criteria. Cool. Let's go lastly onto stale lead reactivation. This is a bit more of a broader topic for how we segment and signal our stale database in general. But we segment our contacts by every action they may take, and then we signal really based off of one signal, one message, one reason for reaching out is my general philosophy. For Clay, what did this look like? Our demand gen team would write SQL queries identifying the audience, right? So they had to know all of the potential Salesforce tables to use, all the exclusion logic, all the inclusion logic. They'd also have to code in which MDRs, which BDRs should be getting the leads. We then reverse ETL this via high touch to outreach, and the SDRs would get the leads from whatever was coded up in SQL. What are the problems with that orchestration? A number of things. Number one, any change in SDR availability, whether it's PTO or churn, required SQL changes. That's not scalable. New audiences and ideas required SQL changes. If someone on my team wants to add in a new audience to target, they're having to go in, write a query, and push that to outreach. Not scalable at all. Very poor observability. If something broke, we'd have to painstakingly review SQL logs. That's just not scalable at all either. And there's no easy way to add additional enrichment. That's another beauty of Clay. Everything we're doing, because it's connected to all of our systems, we're bringing in not just, oh, they attended a webinar. What was the name of the webinar they last attended? What was the event they attended? Now we can pull in all of that contextual data seamlessly. So testing wasn't fun or easy. The goal with Clay, build a system that is simple enough to encourage rapid iteration and testing. So to do this, we just think of all the actions somebody could take in the past if they're a stale lead, so something that is maybe 6 months old, but what are the actions they've taken that could warrant future follow-up now? Could be attended a webinar, no show for a webinar, the list goes on and on. Everyone here can probably think of 30 plus for their organization as well. So we think of all these discrete actions, and then we create discrete tables in Clay. These tables are then pushing to our master sequencer table. So this is what that orchestration looks like. Our CRM data, or our touch points, what are the actions these leads are taking, goes into Clay, then to outreach. Within Clay, you can see here each discrete table that we're making. This is just a small example, but we have tens, if not more than that, which point to this master sequencer table. Why? Well, now we have a single place to manage additional enrichment, additional email criteria, our SDR round robin. That ultimately just gives us much more flexibility, much better observability, because we're seeing the leads and what's happening to them as they come in, much faster iteration. My team can just add a new branch whenever they want, no risk of breaking the core infrastructure, and easier enrichment, which I've already mentioned. And the messaging for these sequences, one signal, one message, one reason for reaching out. I try not to get too overwhelmed with trying to contextualize everything and invent a new reason to message somebody. If you already have good signals, the answer is usually pretty simple as to what you should be following up about. So I'll just end with what I started with in the beginning. In the next 5 years, the best GTM teams won't win by buying more intent data or having more GTM tools, but by remembering what their buyers already told them. And this can be what they told you literally, so on the phone or via email, or what their actions told you. Because the buyers are already telling us who owns the project, who owns the budget, who to follow up with, what the timing is, and there's so much value in organizing and improving your organizational memory, and I truly believe that's where the biggest opportunity is. Cool. Thank you all very much.